AITA for not standing by my wife when she was lecturing our son. So me 47 meters and my wife 46F have 4 kids 9F, 11F, 13 meters, 17 meters, and one of them is a trans guy 17 meters. My wife hasn't been the most supportive. We are working on it, and I'm fully on my son's side. She is tough for this, but this isn't what my question is about. Today my son came down wearing boxers and a hoodie. My wife started to complain about how it's inappropriate to walk around like that, saying that it's too revealing. She told him to put some pajamas on. A few minutes my son came down in a pair of pink pajama shorts my wife brought for him. She turns to him and tells him that he looks much better now. He laughs and tells her that's weird. These shorts are a good 5 centimeters shorter than my boxers, and had a huge smirk on his face. My wife started complaining about his attitude and turned to me to get me to say something. I just told her that he's right. She's now pissed at me for not being a united front for our kids and encouraging that kind of disrespectful behavior. So AITA. Edit just wanted to add that this is the first time my wife has taken issue with this. It's not uncommon for my daughters to lounge about in underwear and shirts. NTA I know there is a sect of parents out there who think you should always side with the other parent in front of your child and then in private raise any concerns. I don't agree with that. Sometimes you need to stand up for your kid when they can see it. You need to show them that Tao will back them up when someone, including their other parent, is being unfair to them. That's what you did here. You showed your son Tao have his back when anyone, including his mom, is being unfair to him. Yeah, 100% agree with this. If my wife has flown off the handle at one of the kids, I call her on it. And there are times when I'm being unreasonable, and she tells me so, in front of the kids, and I appreciate it. Yeah, there are times to back up the other parent, and then speak it out in private. And there are times to show your child that you have their back. NTA your wife was rightly called out. The shorts were shorter than the boxers, so it wasn't about being revealing. Your wife didn't like the boxers, but was okay with pink shorts, and okay with the girls in underwear around the house. Plus Bletch, as long as important bits are covered, nothing should be considered revealing to your family, unless you're sexualizing them. NTA. Sorry, but I'll never present a united front with anyone who's hurting my child. If they want a united front, they'll have to come unite with the non-asshole side. You did the right thing. NTA. In general, yes, it's best to not contradict your spouse when she disciplines your child. But that only applies to situations where reasonable people could disagree. Your wife is not being reasonable here, and given the transphobia you've mentioned, it sounds like her actual discomfort was in seeing her trans child in boxers because they're for boys, not because she has any issue with the kids being in underwear. You are right to protect him from that and make it clear to her that you won't stand for it. NTA. So, I'm typically all about presenting a united front, but this is different as it involves your child's identity. Your wife had a double standard and your son called her out on it. The truth hurts. I wear boxers as bedtime shorts. I'm a woman. Your wife's transphobia is a problem. NTA, but please protect all of your kids from her toxic behavior. NTA. As a trans person, knowing your son has a parent like you brings me so much joy. What your wife said was not on at all. Besides, if there's no guests and your bits are covered, not wrong with being in your pants around your family. If anyone should be desensitized to some skin, it should be the people who wiped your bare ass for years. NTA. We all know that the real issue here that your wife had was that she's still uncomfortable with your son's identity and is taking out her discomfort by making petty comments about your son's clothing. He called her out on it, and now she's mad, but making it an attitude problem. The purpose of parents presenting a united front is twofold. Most importantly, it's to create consistent boundaries for the child. It's also out of respect for the other parent. In this case though, your child didn't need you to hold a consistent boundary. He needed you to stand up for him when someone was being less than supportive of his identity. As for respect for your wife, given that she created this situation out of disrespect for your son, number NTA, you're showing your son that you support him no matter what, which is incredibly important for trans teens in general, and even more so for those with an unsupportive parent. Keep supporting him in front of your wife. NTA, mom is being a dickhead. Son is pushing back very understandably. You being supportive is king shit. NTA, I'd never stand by the side of someone who was berating or belittling my child because of their identity, especially if your wife doesn't have any issue with your daughters doing the same thing. NTA, I'm a girl. I look kind of androgynous, and my mom doesn't love the fact that I look like a dude sometimes. I wear boxers around the house and it's never been an issue. She's definitely just trying to make him look girly, but I'm sure you know that, lol. NTA, you got a smart son who knows how to handle his mother's transphobic behavior. She was complaining because he was in male-leaning unisex pajamas, and he was upset that he couldn't dress the way he wanted. So to show she was being disrespectful and honestly over the top about clothes when they're at home, he wore something that would show she was being rude and pretending like the clothes were the big deal when it's actually the fact they aren't girly. Thank you for standing up for your son. That definitely meant much more than you realized to him. As someone whose dad was a victim of this, you are preserving your relationship with your child. I do not speak to my dad or my mom because he stopped supporting me to have a united front with my mom. Everyone in my family is miserable because of my mom, but they all deal with it cause money. Your wife is a transphobe. The only way you'd better is if you didn't back your son up. He used humor and logic to point out how shitty your wife is being, and if your wife doesn't like feeling like a fool, she should stop acting like one. NTA at all. NTA, everything was covered, and he was in his own home, so who really cares? You don't have to be a united front when you do not agree. Might want to buy him a bunch of male sleeping shorts that probably look exactly like boxers, then your wife cannot have an issue with boxers and he can lounge around in comfort without anyone taking offense. I'm one of those who don't think a united front is always warranted. I think in a situation where the stakes are protecting your child's self-esteem and mental health against your spouse who is clearly showing bias in their actions, then yeah, absolutely don't support your spouse. What? They got disrespected. Oh no. Allow me to call the wire ambulance for her bruised ego. I suppose she'll never recover. Seriously, if the issue at hand was just a matter of disrespect, I might agree. But picking your wife being always respected over her inability to respect your son would have been the absolute worst move. More than anything, I feel if your wife can't respect your son, then why should she deserve respect? NTA. NTA, your wife is being incredibly transphobic, especially since in my experience men's boxers do cover a lot more than women's shorts. Nothing wrong with that on its own and really shows her bigotry and unacceptance of your son. NTA. Before I ever came out as gender fluid, I had a separate but similar issue. My mom would get on my case for not wearing a bra at home under my clothes thick enough that my nipples weren't even poking through. The only way you could tell is because I have a large chest, so it moves differently with bra versus no bra. Apparently it made her and my dad and brother uncomfortable. Despite, again, everything being covered, my mom's parents, meanwhile, at their house, had a rule that as long as nipples weren't obvious, they didn't give a shit whether I wore a bra in front of them or not. Now let me tell you, when your chest is as big as mine, not only is it near impossible to find bras that actually fit, let alone well, but it's also always uncomfortable to wear a bra. Plus bigger bras are expensive. To be clear, what my parents were asking was for me to be rather intensely uncomfortable in my own home when I'd come down to make dinner while they were in the living room watching TV, and the only reason they'd notice is if one of them got up to use the bathroom or I needed to ask a quick question. This isn't part of the years of emotional abuse from my mom, by the way, just a minor reoccurring annoyance that I needed to whine about. Definitely an actual example of her house, her rules, as opposed to the medically unsupervised fad diets under threat of getting kicked out. I say this knowing someone could still take my words out of context again, but at least I can be like, oh hello, I directly said this wasn't abuse, but the fact it's clearly transphobia makes it clear this is not just annoying parent syndrome. NTA. I laughed BC. This goes to show how hate is so irrational. That you say it's too revealing, but then when he wears something even more revealing it's okay BC. It's in line with how she thinks things should be. NTA. Your son made a good point about the boxers being more modest than shorts. Your wife didn't really have a leg to stand on to lecture. While it's important to be a united front against actual wrongdoing like drinking or breaking rules, your son wasn't doing anything wrong here. Sounds like your wife might still be fighting against male clothes, but that's a whole other issue to deal with. NTA. If she's letting the daughters go around like that, it's massive bias. Get her to see the error of her ways before your son cuts her off, because he will wind up doing that. NTA. It sounds like your wife is pleading decency as an excuse to harass and correct your son from his gender expression. He rightly called her out, but in a clever and subtle way, and she's defensive. It's extra transparent if your daughters are allowed to wear less without comment. Unless there is a after the age of 10 you can't wear underwear around the house rule. I'm not sure about it, shouldn't be an issue. But many of my friends, both CIs and trans and both boys and girls, wore boxers around the house in summer. It's pretty unisex item for teenagers. NTA. It's not a united front if it's against something that A isn't wrong and B is something important to your kid. Good on you for being supportive of your child. It may not seem like much to you, but to your son it will probably be one of the moments he remembers most. NTA. OP. You are one of the good people in today's world. The people that stand up for their children, regardless of gender identity, sexual orientation. Your wife is being an unreasonable, transphobic asshole, and you are 100% in the right. Oh my gosh, it sounds like my dad ghost wrote this, and I'm the trans son in this situation laughing my butt off. NTA. OP. You are a golden parent, and just like my dad, and I don't know you, but I love you. You rock. I thought at first it was just because he was in his undies, but if the girls do it too he's totally welcome to as well. NTA. This is just more of your wife being unsupportive. NTA. I ducking hate parents who say united front in regards to their kids. They're your kids and you're talking like they're the enemy, like it's your job to stand together in opposition to them. That's beyond unhealthy. That's the perfect environment to sprout an abusive relationship. Trans man here. You are NTA, and I may just be tired, but I almost cried seeing you take your son's side. A lot of parents just kind of stand to the side and then tell their child they are sorry that happened and say they love them. And sometimes that may be the safest option for everyone depending on the family. I don't hate that kind of response, but it warms my heart so much that you simply said that your son is right because he was and needed to make a point. Have you tried to talk to your wife about her discrimination against your son? I know she may not listen, but it may help get the point across that she isn't being fair or loving to her child. NTA. Good on you for sticking to your son's side. Please subscribe.